it becomes a problem coming up with the suitable argument that a standing tree needs to stay there. That it's not just a tree that's in the way of progress, but it has been there for some period of time.
Who'd you say you were, little fella?
Mister, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues.
Trees represent a conspicuous kind of plant. It is plants in general that make a number of contributions.
Gentlemen, I wish to speak for the trees. Here are some facts to cogitate and ruminate. It takes 10 months for a truffula seed to germinate. It takes 10 long years before the seed grows into a sapling. It takes 10 more years.
Maintaining an oxygen supply in the atmosphere, and that represents the means for survival of humans and other animals. Trees and other plants supply energy resources, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, food. I guess people don't especially eat trees, but there are apples and peaches and cherries, and there are hickory nuts and walnuts and other kinds of food for humans that come from trees.
Yes, I am the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived, eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go around.
As it is standing in its habitat, to be of sufficient value that it ought to continue.
They say I'm old-fashioned and live in the past, but sometimes I think progress progresses too fast.
We are currently in an environmental crisis because of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It is puzzling.
I speak for the trees, and I'll yell and I'll shout for the fine things on earth that are on their way out.
Because there have been lots of events in the past where there have been heavy consumption of fossil fuels. Coal and oil and gasoline have been consumed in similar quantities in the past. But in every other instance where there has been a lot of oxygen consumed and carbon dioxide produced, that has promoted photosynthesis in the trees, in the other plants. And that photosynthesis has put things back in balance again, restored the oxygen and removed the carbon dioxide. So something is happening nowadays that is different from the past.
First the poor barbaloots, then the poor swami swans, now the poor humming fish. Oh, Mr. Lorax.
Lots of consumption of fossil fuels, but the carbon dioxide is not stimulating the trees to do more photosynthesis and bring the carbon dioxide back into balance.
I speak for the trees. Let them grow. Let them grow. But nobody listens too much, don't you know?
So far, the approach of politicians is to figure out how to reduce the release of carbon dioxide. They've declared a carbon footprint to be something that nations should chart and regulate and reduce the carbon dioxide emissions as a solution to the problem. And the crisis of photosynthesis is basically ignored. It's the crisis of photosynthesis. The trees aren't using the carbon dioxide that used to be available when a lot of combustion and respiration occurred.
The things that you do are completely ungood.
Yeah? But if I didn't do them, then someone else would.
That's a very good point.
Mr. Whistler. Progress is progress, and progress must grow.
And for the contractor, who has the job of excavation,
It's always fair weather when good monsters get together.
this tree needs to stay here. Do your excavation some other way so that this tree stays here and is not replaced with some common street tree.
Mr. Wansler,
Oh, yes, Miss Funzler.
stock market's just closed, and Thnees Incorporated stock is up.
I speak for men and human opportunities. For your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering. And biggering, and biggering, and biggering. Turning more truffula trees into needs, which everyone needs.
Sir, you're crazy. You're crazy with greed.
That needs to be addressed, that needs to be corrected.
I'm going to continue to speak for the trees.
At some point, the politicians will need to begin to listen to the scientists. It's not the carbon footprint.
And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came the sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we saw the tree fall. The very last truffula tree of them all.
It's the poisoning of the photosynthetic organisms that represents the real crisis.
And all that the Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word.
Unless?
Yes, unless.
What's an unless?
If we keep going in this direction, it won't be just the birds and butterflies that will be conspicuously suffering, but humans will begin to suffer.
Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. Hold on a minute. Where is it now? Don't go. I've got something for you. Here it is. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. Catch, don't muff.
You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds.